Hotbed Havoc hits H2D, Sovol sparks Scorching Surprise, and Crack Ceramics crippled Qidi printers. Again, all this and more, PrintFixFriday, episode 187. And yes, we have an update to the Qidi Fire from last week. Let's get into it. Jumping right into it, because apparently we get 2 fires in 2 weeks. We've got a Sovol SV08 that has caught fire, and unlike the Qidi Plus 4 from last week, it's pretty obvious that this is the actual printer that actually caught fire, and it is actually the printer's actual fault. Actually, what do we got going on here? So they were running a Z offset. Wow, lucky my house didn't catch on fire. Owned for 4.5 months. Definitely contacting Sovol on eBay. Oh boy, howdy, does she get nice and toasty. We can see the entire front cover is too hot to trot. Now, and the rest of this thing does not look pleasant. And looking at it from the other side, it's not much better. Really, the main question here is, where did the fire originate and how? If we take a look at the front cover itself, we can see a lot of the scorching emanates from the left side of that machine toward kind of the middle area. Taking a closer look, I'm not exactly seeing an immediate fire fault. Chances are it was probably somewhere around the actual hot end itself. We can see something caking over the actual heat sink. All these connectors are badly burned, but this reiterates everything that we had from last week. Make sure that you have a fire extinguisher and or a fire blanket handy inside of your printer room at all times. Do not print unattended, and if you do have to print unattended, there were some awesome people that recommended things like smart switches that connect to smoke detectors. If a smoke detector goes off, boom, it instantly cuts power. And while that's not going to technically put the fire out, it's going to definitely make it a lot easier than allowing it to keep burning and burning and burning with more energy. When you're going to extinguish a fire like this, you also want to stop the flow of electricity. You can pump it full of fire retardant agent all you want, but if there's still energy flowing to these things that are catching fire, it's only a matter of time before, well, they catch fire again. So you always want to make sure that you can remove that actual source of the heat when at all possible by turning off the power. And yes, the tech people made their voices heard in that last video saying, I will never have a smart switch in my house. And I totally understand that. As a tech-minded individual that cares a lot about safety and security, I fully feel your pain in this. There are options out there for things like 433 megahertz wireless remotes that allow you to control relay outlets, but you must be within RF frequency of the actual switch itself. I can totally understand a separate Wi-Fi network, segmenting the VLANs and everything like that, but that could be more effort than a lot of people want to go through. We don't exactly have a perfect solution to this yet, but I would say that there are reasons to buy expensive machines or more expensive machines. There are reasons to look at building a Voron 2.4 rather than just buying a Sovol SV08, because you control the level of safety and security that the machine itself has, not another company that is building something to a much lower price point. On top of that, my name is Grant, and this is 3D Musketeers and PrintFixFriday, where we help you get your printers back to printing with purpose, and almost 200 episodes deep right now, and I feel like now the fires are becoming more prevalent, and I'd like to know from you all down in those comments, do you believe that the fires themselves are becoming more prevalent, or is it because 3D printers are becoming more of a commodity item that the chances of a fire, right? Let's say it's a 0.01% chance of a fire. There's so many more machines now that 0.01, it actually ends up being quite a few more machines than it used to be. I'd love to know your thoughts down in those comments, but I'll tell you, this is not a fun experience. And hilariously, I bought a second Sovol SV08 recently, specifically for the Bondtech index conversion, which we will hopefully be doing here as soon as Bondtech lets us do it and talk about it publicly. So yes, Bondtech, I see you. We like your stuff, and we're very, very excited for this index. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, Jacob and I did an entire half of the podcast all about the index. We'll card to it right here so you all can take a listen or a watch. Next up, a H2D failure, saying the fourth failure on the new H2D. Not adhering to the bed and spaghetti detection does not work on high or medium settings. So we can see it's ESUN basic PLA. They're using the AMS2 generic PLA setting, which says 190 to 240. It's popping off about 30% of the way through the print. I've not changed any other settings, but the print looks fantastic until it pops off. The whole machine shakes like crazy though, hopefully noticeable in the video. Too much wobble, question mark. It does look like a reasonably clean benchy, but is the benchy all that good of a... Oh, there it goes. Yep, so we have a bed adhesion issue on the H2D, and if this happens to be your first 3D printer, one of the best things you can do is clean that build plate. Hot water and Dawn dish soap, not an endorsement for Dawn, but they just make dish soap with pretty much no moisturizers and stuff in it. It's designed for cutting through grease. Clean off that build plate. Do not touch it with your grubby fingers, and then between prints, look at using an ammonia-based glass cleaner like Windex or a generic variant like we do and pour it into a spray bottle that we got at the $1.25 tree. It works great for removing excess oils and things like that on the plate that might get down there. But there is a further question that we have with the H2D because this person is not alone. We've seen quite a few issues with the H2D with its bed. Even Joel Telling said that he was having issues with PLA warping off the plate. And there might be some reasons for this. Looking at Bambu Lab's own community forum and looking at some screenshots from Stefan of CNC Kitchen's video where he's showing what the build plate heater looks like in the A1. When we look at the thermal view from the H2D, we can see an almost identical heater design. Looks like a big M, more or less. This is one of those cases, and we talked about this again on the podcast, where you should not have temperature swings this crazy across a build plate, especially on a machine of this price class. The X1 Carbon has a pretty decent build plate, all things considered, and while they do taco over time, and that's mostly due to the piezo sensor starting to drift and fail, they are reliable in terms of their heat across the plate itself. This is not an acceptable level of heat dissipation across a build plate for a machine of this price class, and I firmly believe that this directly has something to do with it. Looking at the actual build of the A1, it looks dead near identical to me, and while we don't necessarily have an H2D to test with, and we may not be getting one here in the shop because you all definitely know that Bambu's our best friends and favorite company to work with. If you get that joke, make sure to leave a like and get subscribed. I just firmly feel like Bambu cheaped out on the build plate using an oven-style heater. This heater reminds me of the heaters in my oven. It lowers your overall cost of manufacturing. I totally understand that. But what it does also do is have a massive temperature swing on a machine that shouldn't have a massive temperature swing. This amazing machine that's got some incredible engineering. This whole hot end assembly is absolutely incredible with this nozzle that moves up and down. Ultimaker definitely didn't have something like this first, but we definitely see that little nozzle wiper thing that comes underneath. That is super cool. Might get them around the patents, but hey, Stratasys, how's that lawsuit going with Bambu? Looking at this though, Joel saying he has similar issues. I know others have said they've had similar issues with low temp plastics. And I don't know if maybe the H2D was just never designed to work with low temp plastics. But I would tell you with high temp plastics like polycarb, nylon, Polymer, they're not designed to have really weird temperature swings on the build plate. You want as even of a build plate as possible. And Qidi, with all of the problems that I've had with their Plus 4, and don't worry, you're going to hear about that toward the end of the video, they did one thing really right. The build plate on the Plus 4 is like 4 or 6 millimeters of solid metal. So when the heat gets through that build plate, and it does take a while, it is pretty much dead even across that build plate. But man, Bambu, you gotta look at other places to cut costs or just raise the price of the machine. A lot of us were expecting this machine to cost a lot more money, and I don't think that adding an extra $50 to the price point and adding an extra $4 or $5 to your bill of materials would have significantly impacted the sales of this printer, but would have significantly increased the actual performance and value of it. Love to know your all's thoughts in those comments down below. Speaking of the H2D, Balika011 with a very, let's go with limited post saying the H2D is fun and indicated that they have hacked the H2D. Balika011 was one of the original people that were able to crack the security for the Bambu X1 Carbon. So I have faith that they're not joking with us. This could mean that within only a couple of weeks of this machine being available, that there could be a community firmware in play already, or at least access into this machine. As always, we will be incredibly interested to see what is inside of it. We found some things that we were not very happy to see inside of the Bambu Lab log files in the X1 Carbon. We'll card to that video if you guys want to take a look. I have a feeling we would see incredibly similar, if not worse, things inside of the H2D, but you should have already known this, because the H2D is one of Bambu's first fully controlled 3D printers and does lose quite a few features if you do take it offline. I'm not certain I'll be as surprised as I was with the X1 Carbon, but I am still curious to take a look around. So, Balika, if you're watching this, hit me up. And this kind of just shows that closed source is really only closed source until someone gets upset enough to decide to find ways to open it up. What do you guys think about this? I am excited. I think that this could bring some extra value to the H2D, especially for those that wanted the extra build volume that it provides, the heated chamber, the dual nozzles. There's a lot of reasons to like the H2D. It's control-based firmware is one of the ones that I'm not a huge fan of. And if we could find a way around it, your boy might consider it. We've seen crazier things. Such as, once again, breaking another nozzle in the Qidi Plus 4. This was on a huge print that I was working on. Over 4 kilos in a single build, over 2 days. And during a filament changeover, enough gunk had built up on the front of the silicone sock that the machine skipped a step, ran into the actual nozzle wiping mechanism, and cracked the ceramic heat break on the nozzle of the Plus 4. Qidi, in all of their engineering prowess, has really screwed the pooch on those nozzles. And there are so many things on the Plus 4 that I look at and say they feel like half-baked solutions to real-world problems. Originally, these machines came with stainless steel nozzles, where the entire nozzle was a tube of stainless steel. Because of thermal issues where PLA was getting a little bit soft up in this general region, which you can actually see the PETG leaking out from this. Gotta love it. They decided, instead of fixing the fact that the fan sits almost 12 millimeters away from the hot end itself, that they would just change over the hot end material to ceramic for the heat break to give you a better break of that heat. And I am really not agreeing with this. Like, fundamentally not agreeing with this. This is the second $20 nozzle that I have destroyed. There are no good third-party options out there that don't include the actual ceramic piece of it. And while there are community mods to deal with things like the machine hitting the wiper plate, which we talked about in a previous PrintFixFriday, which we'll card to so you guys can take a look, even all the way to just adjusting the actual firmware itself, this is still an unacceptable problem to an $800 machine. In a machine that could very well be a light industrial machine with its heated chamber. Although it's uninsulated, it's a relatively easy thing to fix. It's an H2D for people that don't want to pay H2D money and don't need dual extrusion. But this is where I say enough is enough is enough. I am done dealing with this. I do not want to deal with these crappy nozzles anymore. The solution that I'm really pushing toward is a plug-and-play solution for a Bambu Lab hot end. We have already run into some pretty serious issues. One of them being the Qidi Plus 4 uses thermocouples, not thermistors, and we don't know the actual PTC value of the heater for the Bambu hot end. The hot end in the X1 Carbon is ubiquitous. They are cheap. There's tons of aftermarket abilities for them in terms of availability on Amazon. We've got a lot of companies that have done joint partnerships or joint ventures with Bambu, like the E3D Obsidian High Flow, the Diamondback, and even ones from companies like Slice Engineering. There's no reason that we should look at another standard when a new printer comes out. The community has already designed a little printed part that enables you to use a Bambu hot end. Problem is, you have to do all the wiring yourself. And I don't think that a lot of people are very good at crimping tiny little Molex connectors. We already have a couple of electronic-minded individuals involved, but if you would like to get involved in building a solution for this, leave a comment down below or email me, youtube@3dmusketeers.com. We'll see about kind of getting a little group chat set up because we do want to solve this problem. You could also end up using the Qidi Q1 Pro hot end, which is pretty much a dead drop-in fit, except you just have to change out the actual connector. The Q1 Pro is the same length, the same size, the same heater, and the same thermocouple. It is electrically the same. Qidi decided to just use a different hot end on the Plus 4 for reasons that we don't understand other than money.
Money!
Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it. And I worry that if we look at the Q1 Pro, a hot end that really hasn't had a lot of aftermarket support, that once Qidi decides to stop producing it, now all of a sudden our options get limited. I don't think the X1 Carbon hot end is going anywhere. We found them to be reasonably robust. They're incredibly affordable. Even OEM solutions are incredibly affordable. And there's lots of third-party solutions out there for varying values. And there's even someone in the Qidi Discord that is looking to use a Dragon hot end. I'm open for whatever. I just don't like the Qidi Plus 4 hot end. I think it is a massive weak point for this printer. And I think if we can solve that problem, that machine could end up on my recommended list, even with the potential issues that we're seeing right now with the Fire. Although, realistically, we still have more to learn about that. Stay tuned. But I do sit here and say, why? This machine has so much potential, and it's like they just stopped when they hit 90% and said, F it, we're just gonna ship it. I've reached out to Qidi, and I'm hoping that we can talk to some of the engineering team there to discuss a real-world solution to this problem. Hey, Future Grant here. I don't have good news on this one. Qidi got back to us and saying, the nozzle will last 1 to 3 months if you print every day, or 6 months if you print occasionally. That is not acceptable. I have nozzles in Prusa Mark IIIs behind me with thousands of hours on them that are just made of brass. I have thousands of hours on Bambu hot ends, and I'm sure many of you do as well, without ever needing to replace something. It is not reasonable to have to change out a $20 part every single month because a company manufactures it in a way that it is incredibly fragile. If they just did a better job on the engineering side of things, this wouldn't be a problem. Don't get me wrong, there are reasons for this, but if we can just support the hot end a little bit better, this issue won't be a problem. But giving me the response of the nozzle will last 1 to 3 months if you print every day, or 6 months if you print occasionally, is not acceptable, especially for a $20 part. That is honestly not the easiest thing to replace when it's in 2 pieces, when you're expecting it to be in 1. Love to know your thoughts down in those comments about that, but suffice to say, I'm less than thrilled. Qidi, I really want to work with you on this. We have an opportunity to do it right and do it better. I don't want to lose more prints because these hot ends are fragile and are failing, and because the machine, some reason, doesn't have skip step detection. But I look at that machine and say it has a lot of potential, but right now, it's missing a lot of things. So if you have a Plus 4, I'd love to know your opinions. I like it, and I want to like it more, but every now and then, like right when I'm getting comfortable with it, it kind of rears its ugly side and starts to become a bit of a problem for us. So we'd love to know your thoughts in those comments. And again, if you do want to contribute and help on this little project that we have, you can reach out to me, and hey, we'll see about getting you added to some sort of group that we're working on. And I do want to update you guys. We have been in further contact with the individual that had the Fire from the Qidi Plus 4 They are awaiting the insurance inspectors to come through. The insurance company has hired their own independent fire inspector and engineer to come in and survey the property, determine where the damage occurred and how. So far, nothing is conclusive. There are no fingers to be pointed as of yet. But as Jacob and I talked about on last week's podcast, which we will card to here, we don't necessarily believe that it is printer related. It is way more likely that it is wiring related, but only time will tell. We're anxiously awaiting that report, and the individual has promised to give us a redacted copy that we are able to look at and report to you all so that we all can learn together how to make our printers safer and minimally do our best to make sure this doesn't happen again. Because no one wants a fire, no matter where it starts. But the thing I do want you to do if you have made it this far is to leave a like and get subscribed. And I do want to give a huge thank you to all of our channel member supporters whose names are listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. Remember, if you do want to support the efforts that we do here on this channel, you can do so by clicking those links in that description down below. And hey, you can now pick up some super sweet merch. Yes, you can get Victoria the long way, along with a few others. And stay tuned because there will be a special shirt celebrating 50,000 subscribers. We do still have to do that live stream. What do you guys want to see for that? Let me know in those comments. If you made it this far, I feel like, you know, I'd probably value your opinion on it. And I'm going to also be asking those names next to me. Thank you all for watching. If you do want to see the rest of the PrintFixFriday series, that'll be right below me. And next, that will be our tour of Construct 3D. That's all we have for you all today. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. Keep your fire extinguishers handy. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one.